Ambrose with Sloan State Association, and I'm also a representative to this admission-based special events policy task force. There's some disagreement on the task force as to what the procedure should be for implementing a policy regarding special events. It's my belief that the city charter very clearly states that this kind of decision should be left up to the voters. For many years, event promoters and producers would come to the city and say, look, I want to use City Park, I want to use a Civic Center Park or any other park that they have in mind for an event, and I want to close it off or charge admission. And for 100 years they were told, I'm sorry, you can't do that without a vote of the people. So this kind of use was always denied. But when AEG went to the city and asked to close off City Park, it was decided by the city attorney's office that this is something that was allowable under a small provision of the charter which says that the manager of Parks and Recreation can determine charges for events. That's all it says. Manager of Parks and Recreation can determine charges. The city charter gives the right for manager of Parks and Recreation to grant licenses, privileges, and concessions, where a license is defined as the privilege of operating concessions in or of selling goods and services in a park. Franchises are prohibited in a park. Now, the common legal definition of a government franchise is a right granted to an entity giving it a monopolistic advantage. Barron's Law Dictionary defines a franchise as a special privilege conferred by the government upon individuals and which does not belong to the citizens of the city or the country generally. The charter reads, nor shall any franchise for the maintenance of any other special privilege within any park be granted, provided, however, that the foregoing shall not be a limitation on the right of the department to grant licenses for the operation of concessions or for the sale of goods and services. So what this says is that you can't give out a monopolistic license to operate within a park. The other part of the charter that applies to this is that it says that you cannot lease or sell a park without a vote of the people, without getting it approved by the people. Now, granting a permit to use a park for a nonprofit organization or not to charge admission is not really a lease. But when you talk about shutting down a park for 3 weeks or 2 weeks or a week and fencing it off from public use, this is, in my opinion, and I think if this were to come to a judge, would probably be considered a lease or a franchise and be a violation of the charter. So this is a point that I'm trying to drive home on the committee, that whatever policy this committee does come up with needs to be voted on by the people. The city disagrees with that. The city attorney says no. The manager of Parks and Recreation can make this decision on her own. This is wrong, in my opinion. The other thing that that I'm pushing on this committee is the idea. Recently, and other people will speak to this, Kim Bailey said that any park in the city will be subject to admission-based events. The 6 festival parks are the ones that most promoters will want to use because they can serve alcohol. But any park would be subject to this kind of provision. Other cities have, in their wisdom, created admission-based parks. We have one in Denver that's way out in the foothills. It's called Red Rocks. It's not officially a park, but that's the kind of idea. It has a stage. It has amenities. It has bathrooms. It has electrical. It has the infrastructure to support the kind of events that Chuck Morris wants to do. City Park doesn't have that. No park in Denver has that right now. So what I am advocating is that, and other people on the committee as well, is that we develop an admission-based park in central Denver that may or may not exist today. You're all familiar with Gene Tepper's idea of a central park.
Larry, we need to wrap up.
Okay. This is the kind of facility that might be available, might be made into a admission-based park. The other opportunity that I think exists is Elitch's. You know, Elitch's has had financial trouble. The city needs to keep in mind that down the road, e-liches could become available and could be made into a special events admission-based park, or perhaps the private sector, e-liches, could make themselves into an admission-based park. We shouldn't take these kind of events into our neighborhoods and close off our parks.